Let's have a huge round of applause for Vincent.
Ooh, okay, yeah. Yeah. Hey, same height, we're all good. Slightly shorter. All right. You should have never gone to Vietnam were the exact words that my parents told me after I informed them that, hey, Mom, Dad, I got the U.S. Fulbright scholarship. I got to represent the United States and represent Vietnam. And that was the refrain I heard again and again and again. You should not have gone to Vietnam. As a matter of fact, my first day in Vietnam, I almost got ran over. And that's what they said. You should not have gone to Vietnam. Traveling tip, if you're walking in Vietnam, don't stop. Like, I'm serious. Like, motorbikes, zoom, zoom, zoom. You just keep walking steady. And so I felt hurt by my parents. Mom, Dad, I'm going back to your country. Why are you looking like this? This is a shameful thing. I want to know what it's like when you guys grew up. I'm not traveling there. I'm living there. I'm working at a school. I'm working for the government. I will know your country. I will know your cultural experiences on an intimate, personal, daily level. I speak Vietnamese. Though I may not read and write it, maybe this is the exposure that I need to know what you guys have been through coming here to the United States. And so I spent months, many months teaching at a high school and a university where I got to know the intimate details and lifestyles of my students, where their parents put all the pressure on them to succeed, where they went to school from 7 to 4, and then they went to extra classes from 7 to 10 so they could prepare for the national exams. And this started in 9th grade. And so I got so lucky to live in this country that my parents went to, that they mistrusted because they said, Vietnam is not a country you need to go to. Vietnam is not a place. Vietnam is backwards. My parents are from the South, from Saigon, Hue, which was the side that lost the Vietnam War. I was stationed in the North. I was there for 1 year in a place where none of my family have ever been before. Imagine the son of refugees knowing more about the country in terms of places seen than his own immigrant parents. What are the consequences? And I began to realize that on April 30th, 2015. April 30th is called Ngày Thống, nhất, which is Reunification Day in Vietnam, when the North and the South were finally reunited after hundreds, even thousands of years of oppression and colonization by China, France, Japan, and later by the US. The existence of Vietnam as an entity recognized by the world is less than 60 years old. So this was a cause for celebration. I was there with my students, folding the banana leaf for the rice, making the fish sauce, and about to drink a lot because that's the responsibility of a dude in Vietnam. But the thing is, when I was sitting there, I saw fireworks. I saw the Vietnamese flag draped all over. I saw a parade. It was so exciting. And I was like, wow, this is like the love that these people have for their country, the love that they have because they exist and it's recognized by other people was so important. And so my students and my students' parents, they asked me, Mr. Vincent, how do the Vietnamese people celebrate this day in Vietnam? And I couldn't answer them because I had never known the significance of April 30th. Because in my family, we never talked about it. So I called home while I was in Vietnam, 15 hours ahead of them, 2 flights away from them. And I asked my mom and dad, Mom, Dad, how come you never told me about April 30th? And then they said, we don't ever want that day to be like remembered. We don't want to talk about that day because unlike Vietnam, it's actually called Black Friday. Tháng Tư Đen in the Vietnamese diaspora in the United States, because that was the symbol in which all the people from the South fled the country. My parents are the boat people, and they fled not just for better opportunities, but because their existence in the country at that time became too dangerous to live. For the first time, I began finding out details about my mom and my dad. I found out about how my mom was one of the refugees who Right as the last U.S. helicopters were leaving the U.S. Embassy, she was right outside the embassy, hand outstretched, watching hope fly away. And then watched her father be taken away by the communists to be in a re-education camp. The same communist government that still exists in Vietnam today, the same communist government that I was now working for in support. I listened to my father tell me about the 13 attempts he had to make to get out of the country. I listened to him as he talked about how his riverboat was shot up, or someone turned him in to the government so that they could try to get extra money in the chaos after the war. I listened to my mom tell me about how she was underneath a boat, and on the 5th day, they ran out of food and water. And they were like that for the next 2 days before they somehow landed in Malaysia. I listened and I found out about all these experiences that my parents have never told me growing up. I had just thought that they were just being strict immigrant parents. Work hard, have a stable life. But these were the reasons why they were so against me coming back to Vietnam. But at the same time, how could I take everything they told me, but also deny the love and the support that I had when I was living in communist Vietnam? The way I was embraced and welcomed into the life, the way that even though I couldn't read or write in Vietnamese, they still translated menus for me. They still hosted me in their families, even though technically I made more money than them. I made more money with my US stipend than all of the staff members combined together. And yet they were the ones inviting me to get food. They were the ones teaching me how to eat pho the northern way and also offering me plenty of beer. And so I realized, as the son of Vietnamese refugees and as someone who's lucky enough to be in this country, I have a responsibility. Yes, I have to honor and love my parents. And that does not mean I have to disprove them at every point. But at the same time, their truths matter. But at the same time, the way that the sounds, the smell, the movements, the routines that I have acquired while living in Vietnam for 1 year was deeply ingrained into my bones and my soul, I had to honor that too. So what is the responsibility of a first generation Vietnamese immigrant, the son of Vietnamese refugees? I have to understand that my parents' truths are their truths, but it's not always the expectation and the rule of life in Vietnam, especially in the North, as they thought. But I also have to understand that the experiences that my people, that my students and their families had in Vietnam is also relevant, but also needing to improve so they can actually achieve their dreams. But in the middle where I stand, I have the privilege and the duty to share their truths for all to hear. Thank you.